I'm gonna go through the AutoCAD stuff first, get that out of the way. If you guys have any questions, just jump on in and just holler. So let's go. The biggest theme that I think you'll see for 2025, whether it's AutoCAD or Civil, is productivity and performance. I jumped on 25 day one, and you can really know, especially as you work with larger files, we'll talk about some of those improvements and performance improvements, surfaces, stuff like that. But in lieu of a whole bunch of new shiny objects, the goal for 25 was just to make it work better. So on average, AutoCAD 2025, 2024, just simply opening a file. I haven't tested it to see if it's exactly 2 times, but I've seen a big increase in just open and save and close. So 2 times the open speed, which is good. That's my biggest pet peeve, is waiting for something to open or save or close. There are some blocks, so if there's any vanilla AutoCAD users in here, and again, it's in all CAD platform products like Civil 3D or Plant, Map 3D. If you're a fan of exploding blocks, which I know a lot of us are for some reason, there's a new search and convert. So I've done a couple little videos on the AutoCAD stuff, but there's a new command called bconvert. So let's say you exploded 100 street lights in your drawing, and every line, every polyline, every arc adds up, and it slows your machine down. This will identify everything that you've created and create a block out of it, or redefine a block. And again, it's in all AutoCAD platform products, but super easy to go in there and find some common data and create a block out of them all. That way, instead of 10,000 lines, I've got 100 blocks maybe. A couple other things on blocks. Object detection. You'll see AI creeping into every Autodesk product. It just is what it is. That's just the way it's going. This is kind of building on that to clean up drawings, identify things, but it's got a smart block AI detection. So not a whole lot there on the vanilla AutoCAD side. I do want to jump into AutoCAD on the web. Does anyone use AutoCAD on the web? It's actually, if you get a sales guy trying to talk you into buying Docs or something like that, as a viewer, AutoCAD on the web is actually a really good viewer. It's simply just web.autocad.com. I'll show you mobile next. You can upload any drawing to it. It's super easy. Just go, you can create a new drawing. So if you had very simple sketches or something, maybe you're in a meeting, wanted to sketch something out, you can create new drawings here. You can upload drawings. So if you wanted to share with people who don't have AutoCAD, you can upload drawings here. You can share. So I uploaded one a couple days ago. I'm just going to open it up real quick.
Question?
Answer?
Where are those drawings going to when you upload them, Sean?
They're going to, so with your Autodesk account, whatever your login, your typical Autodesk account, you get unlimited storage. And so it's going to Docs in the cloud. It's going to, it used to be called Drive, it used to be called Team. Now it's just called Autodesk Construction Cloud.
So it's just the Autodesk cloud.
It's just in the Autodesk cloud. Yeah.
Thank you.
But easy to access anywhere. So if you have an iPad or something, or if you even a phone, the mobile app ties directly to this, so you're seeing the same files. It's basically an AutoCAD LT version of AutoCAD LT. It's kind of a stripped down LT, but it's got all your basic functionality for drawing, annotation, modify tools. It's got layers control. Your blocks are there. XREF management. This one doesn't have any. Traces, which we can talk about another time. New functionality that you can include Lisp routines, if any of you do those. Hide that. And so again, it's just, you have command line, you have your model space, you have your paper space, again, basic functionality. You can open this in the desktop. So if you were out in the field and you did some redlining on a project, or if you have, just opening up on my phone here, there's also the AutoCAD mobile app. So, most smartphones now have a pen. You can draw on that mobile app. If it's iOS on your iPad or something, you can draw on that mobile app. But this sees the exact same files. It knows that I'm just in it right now. I can communicate. I could draw things. I could probably erase some stuff in here. And once I save it, this Wi-Fi is a little slow, but it's tied to each other. So if you don't want to bring your laptop out to the field or something, and you can upload whatever file, even if it's survey, civil data objects, whatever that is, put it in the cloud, and just web to Autodesk or web to AutoCAD.com, mobile and web. So it's pretty underutilized. Not a lot use it. You can actually be out in the field, and if your files are in the right coordinate system and they're in the correct spot, you could walk out to a property corner within a few feet. So not exact, but you can get pretty dang close to where that is. So kind of a cool tool on the phone, on the iOS, on iPad, on the Android tablet, whatever you want there. I'm not going to get too detailed into it. It's just AutoCAD LT. But the web, it's been around for a while. They just keep adding some new stuff to it where it's actually somewhat usable now. So kind of like it. I just talked about AutoCAD and mobile. Docs, you'll hear a lot about Autodesk Docs. That's in the AEC collection. There's always new stuff when it comes to Docs. One of the things that I like in Docs, and I'm going to go open a file. And we're doing a whole session on Docs, so I'm not going to get crazy detailed in Docs, but let's say we were working 100% in the cloud, all cloud-based. I'm going to open up two files. So, does anyone here use Docs? Anyone using Collaborate for Civil 3D, which pretty much replaces Vault? It is. Your projects are in the cloud. Again, that entire session me and Bryson are doing, we'll go over it in detail, but it syncs your changes locally. So it's just a mirror image, like Dropbox, if you're using Dropbox or anything. I'm going to open up a plot here. While that's opening, in Docs, we've got the PDF viewer, you've got your sheet files, you've got all that stuff. So any redlining that you want to do, let's say you use Bluebeam now for just simple redline purposes, you can do that in Docs. Again, if you have AEC, you've got Docs. I'm trying to find my plot here. Let's go to this sheet. Whether it's a PDF you're opening, like I'm opening here, or it's the sheet files because you don't want to go make the PDF because you really don't need to. It's got a bunch of redlining tools. So we'll get into a little bit more, but there's layers, there's markups, there's reviews, and there's issues. And then you have a bunch of redlining tools here and commenting tools. So I'm just going to go put a couple in. Maybe it's
This kind of fully functional Bluebeam. Do you log in with that login, or is that separate?
This is just your Autodesk login.
Okay. That's really good.
So you can make these reviews. Fix budget. You can publish it. You can assign these to people. So if you have a designer drafter and you want to assign these to somebody, you can assign them to them. That way you can check on them. You can run reports. But if I'm just going to sketch some stuff in here. Add some text. Okay. So let's say we go in here, we redline that. We've published all those comments that we need done. There is a sync markups to AutoCAD. So I'm going to hit sync markups to AutoCAD. Pick your team member. So I'm just going to sync it with me, Bryson, and Mark's going to get a random email. Okay, that sends it out to whoever you invite. It could be an individual, it could be a team. But then we can come in here to AutoCAD, and there's this markup import. Okay, let's just see. I think it happened quick enough. We'll talk about desktop connector, but everything happens through this thing called Autodesk Desktop Connector. With this Wi-Fi, it might be a little bit slow, so let's just see if everything's up to date. Okay, so let's go to that plat. Okay, just making sure I'm on the right one. Let's go to the plat. Let's import it. Importing the markups. It's usually a little bit quicker. Okay, so it places those. You can reorient this thing if you really want to. I'm just going to move it a little bit. Move it. I'm just going to move from my PDF wherever. I made it worse. You can line it up. But what it does is it shows us those red lines from the cloud. So shows them here. Right now I'm in trace mode. If I go to drawing mode, I can address those. Right now I can't even select my stuff, my AutoCAD line work. But if I switch it to drawing mode, I can see the red line. I can address the red line. If I go back to trace mode, I can see what red lines exist there. And then again, working with docs, you can go in there and mark, all right, I did this, I did that, I did this. Or if you have a question, you can add comments to it. Kind of a new thing. Again, if you don't want to look over here at one marked up PDF and then make the changes, you can put them together however you want to do that workflow. And if you are around for that, the ACC class, it gets heavy into setting everything up in Docs. Because again, most of you probably have Docs, you just may not know or may not use it. But we'll get into the depth of Docs. Any questions on that? Yeah, that's kind of a new thing in Docs. Let me close this out so I don't mess anything up. Went over the web. Finally, my phone did a sync to that CAD file where you can just open the latest version and it should have that change.
I had a question on Docs. So I know it seems like for review, a lot of people use Bluebeam.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I'm hearing about the Docs. Why do you think it is that people still use more Bluebeam instead of
It's just what they know.
Okay.
If you're just doing basic red lines, the two are comparable.
Yeah.
And Docs, I don't even have to make the PDF. So right now in Bluebeam, I've got to go export out or publish a PDF, and then I redline that in Bluebeam, right? Here, using Docs, I can just open up the CAD file itself. Let's just open up this same plat. I don't have to do any conversion, and I've got my comments in there, paper space, model space. So if I don't want to waste the time creating a PDF, I could just simply redline the CAD file. This is a sheet file, but you can do it in your design bases, model space. Here's the model space. So I think it's more just people know what they know with Bluebeam, and if you're just using it for redline purposes, it's pretty equivalent with that Docs markup. But if you're doing like quantity takeoff and some of the other stuff that Bluebeam does, Docs doesn't quite do that. So yeah, anyway, Civil objects, all that fun stuff. It's all here. So again, if I don't want to waste the time creating a PDF, or somebody's always asking, can you give me an updated PDF? Can you give me an updated PDF? You don't need to do that if everything is here in Docs, because you're working on the latest, greatest at all times. Before I forget, because I was going to do this first, if you don't have Autodesk Access download Autodesk Access. That took the place of the Autodesk desktop app. So all your updates and everything, all your service packs, all that stuff is here, Autodesk Access. So if you see that and it's new to you, it's just the old one that was called desktop app. From there, you can get to your products and all that. This just has, for the most part, just updates. You won't see like full-blown product in there. If you see anything that says license, so if you're using some older versions, I'd say 2021 and up, there's some licensing updates. Make sure those are installed. That's probably the biggest question I get all the time is if you open something up and it says that you don't have a license, it's lying to you. You just don't have that installed. That's Autodesk Access. In your Autodesk account, so if you don't get in here often, in your account is all your products. And I'm going to go to 2025 at some point. You've got the product updates, you got the products and services. So if I just go to civil, you can install the versions, usually current -3. I'm going to go here where it says view details. Same thing here. There's all your versions. If you're looking for a certain add-on or a tool, that's usually here on the updates or the extension. So here's where I can find grading optimization, SSA, whatever extension, civil engineering data translator. That's a popular one. If you work with MicroStation back and forth. But they kind of hit it a little bit. So you've got your updates, your extensions, and your plugins. So easy to find once you know where it's at instead of searching for things and just Google. It's typically always there. So 2025 already has an update. I think the update came out the day after 2025 came out. There's the SSA, the 24.1, but anyway, that's where you'll find some of those extensions and things as they come out.
You do the SSA extension. Is that still its own program when you go to open it? Or is that now?
It's yeah, it's same old SSA. Yeah. But I want to show you just that. That's not changed, but if you're not in there very often, it's sometimes hard to find those extensions, but they're there. So if they don't show up in Autodesk Access, they show up here. That's the Docs thing I just went over. Project Navigator. Does anyone use Project Navigator? You use it? All right. All right, I'm going to skip it. It's supported and enhanced on Docs now, so nothing to do cartwheels over. Some of the other stuff that came out in AutoCAD and definitely in Civil, things that I actually find somewhat helpful. There's the new Hatch version, so I'm just going to pick a lot here. So if I go to Hatch, typically you can pick an object, pick an internal point, but now there's this new draw option here. Draw option, because I have stuff all the time that may not be closed, even though I'm 100% sure it's closed. Autodesk doesn't think it's closed.
You're frustrated enough to draw it yourself.
Exactly.
You're gonna draw a polygon.
Yeah. So this new draw, we'll go draw, and then we just start our drawing here. And I can just draw in my hatch. Arcs, all that fun stuff. It's wigging out a little bit. Okay. So you can just draw it without having to close anything. Same hatch. So seems pretty basic, but it's probably something I'll use quite a bit because I hate that not closed thing when you know for a fact it's closed. So if you don't see that pop up, in 2025 you should, because it's defaulted this way. But if you changed it, like I changed it, there's this mode, and that goes back to draw hatch or area or path or something. So, but it should automatically default there. And so you've got the area, you've got your pick internal still, and select objects. So nothing big, but kind of cool. Cool enough that I use it. The other thing across all CAD products, for the last few years, we've had Bing Maps and Bing Maps only. 2025 introduced 5 new maps directly from Esri. So before we just had those, now we've got these 5: OpenStreetMap, imagery, streets, and then this light gray and dark gray thing.
If you have an Esri account and your own maps, is there a way to put that through there, I wonder? Or is it just they pulled certain?
Not through there, but you can.
You just put it in like you usually do?
Yeah.
I just didn't know if that was another alternative.
Yeah. I'll check on that, but I'm pretty sure this is just going
We just
right.
use Map II insert right now, or Map II insert
Yeah.
to just bring in images, but I didn't know if there was a.
I don't really know if these are more current or higher quality yet. I haven't really interested to see one versus the other, but I would assume Esri over Bing probably has better imagery. The same options there. So as long as we have a coordinate system set, we should have access to the geolocation. If you just use AutoCAD and not Civil, AutoCAD doesn't have coordinate systems, but you can still access this and set your point and stuff in there. Which one am I on here? I don't know if I would ever use the dark gray, but I guess it looks fun. So if you're not aware, those images, you can capture your area, you can capture your viewport. So if you just need a small part of this, and then you want to turn the maps off, that way you have no XREF. If you're sending a file to somebody, they've got that image underlaid. It's just there. The quality options are still the same. So you can change from default of optimal to very fine to clean that up a little bit. And then you have minimal things here still. So
is there a way that you can link your coordinate point from your drawing file to the geolocation?
So if your file's like just some random coordinate, what are you asking? Yeah. So this one is coordinately correct. But if it's not, let's say this file is at 5,000. You know what? Let's just do this. Yeah, so even if it's not in a coordinate system, you still have to have a coordinate system set to turn on the geolocation ribbon in Civil. Come on. Wasn't I just saying the performance of 2025 is awesome, but I can't move a polyline? All right, I'm just going to move it. You can reorient your marker. You can edit the location. So from Esri or from Bing, whichever one you want. So if I go to from Esri, I'm just going to mess this up. Let's get it close, but not. Let's just imagine this project was actually right here. So you can move this. So if you have like a found corner or something, you can drop this point in, you can move it around. Eventually move it around. My internet's bad. But you move this pin to a known corner, a fence, or something that you can see, something to get it close. Then you just hit next. Choose what coordinate system it could be or should be. And then I'm going to set that point right there and say north is up. So even if your file is not in the right spot, you can still overlay that image to the right spot, or close enough anyway.
found in the past in doing that, you have to do it each time you open that drawing. It doesn't save that. Is that
I haven't had that problem, but I could see if someone maybe turned it off or reset it somehow, but I haven't had that problem. But I can mess around with it and see. But yeah, usually when you come back in, it's there. It remembers that orientation. Yeah. But if you continue to have that problem, let's look at it. That shouldn't be how it is. Some of the other stuff that's probably more important. Let me get into a couple files here. Again, in lieu of new features, it was updates, enhancements. We already went over that. I'll get into the corridor property dialog box in a minute. Corridor surface creation, 3 to 4 times faster. Definitely faster to create that surface from your corridor. The variable is already set, but I listed it here for you if you really want to remember AEC fast corridor surface build. It is a lot quicker to build that. And then it only rebuilds now the affected portion of your corridor. So if I've got a subdivision, I probably have 20, 30 baselines, a bunch of little regions in here and there. And if I edit one region historically, the entire thing updates, right? Extremely annoying. Sometimes it takes a while. 25 just now updates that rebuild. It's just the delta, just the change.
I'm guessing it's default turned on in 25?
It's default turned on in 25. If you migrate settings, I'm not a big fan of migrating my settings year over year. I would rather set it up 20 minutes year over year. But sometimes I do see if you migrate settings that wasn't included in 2024, and so it turns it off. But on open, it should default correctly. So lots of improvements on the corridor side. The surfaces, this is an important one. Well, there's 2 important ones here. MMS files. Who deals with those stupid, annoying MMS files? They're the worst file. There is here, so under surface properties, with the surface selected, and I'll go select one in a minute, but there's this convert deref status. This was a hidden command. It's been there for a little while, but no one knows it existed. Your drawing size probably will increase, but that doesn't really matter. But it brings in the reference data. It stores it in the file itself instead of storing it in that XML or something. So your file size may increase a little bit, but your file speed, regeneration time, save, open, all that stuff increases, or is better, whether that's increase or decrease, whatever that is. So that's an important one. So and this is just for deref. This is just for data shortcuts. Hopefully you're using data shortcuts. If not, this doesn't apply. If not, we should talk. So that's a big thing. And then the MMS thing. So now the MMS, before it was always updating. And most of the time that MMS didn't change because it was probably an existing ground surface. If there's no change to that, the MMS file will no longer update. You should see a lot of improvements there. That's the absolute worst file. I don't know why they just can't figure out a way around it. So if you go to 2025, just pay attention to that, maybe see, and you should see some big improvements there. The other one, this level of detail, there's always been level of detail. I'm going to select my surface here. That's where that deref status is. But now you see 2 things up here on the ribbon, reduced level of detail and high level of detail. This doesn't change the way the surface would plot. This just changes what's going to regen as you're working in this file.
Is this the same thing that you come up with a warning before you open? You want to keep it at the current surface, or?
Yeah, this just gives you more control now. So reduced and high. Again, if I'm doing presentation something, maybe I would do high, but typically I'll reduce that level of detail because it doesn't change your surface. It doesn't change the data. It doesn't change anything. It's just a visual taxing on your computer. If you right click on your surfaces, you can kind of see this is highlighted blue. That means that's turned on. So I can either access it by picking my surface, or I can access it by right-clicking, and there's the surface level of detail. Okay, so just improvements there definitely help. This isn't a massive file. I don't know if this annoys you as much as it annoys me, but you'll get that with level of detail turned on. Okay, that is not what I wanted, but that's the purpose of level of detail. Again, it doesn't change anything. Don't worry about anything looking different. It's just going to be better. Let's see. Those are the commands. You don't need to write them down. I'll send everybody this. These are just more performance discussions, opening drawings, surface editing, changing surface styles, panning and zooming. This one down at the bottom, it annoys the crap out of me if I would go to like go to my surface and change my style to display something different, or change my name or whatever, and then it has to rebuild. Supposedly, again, I've only been 2025 for a little bit, that will not regenerate the surface. So a lot of those are annoying things that hopefully add up to minutes, if not hours a day. Corridor baselines and transitions. Is anyone on 25? Okay, some of you, if you haven't done a corridor yet, opened up your corridors and you're like, this looks completely different. Like, what is going on here? This is the third time Autodesk has done this. And the way I've found out has been always in a training. Like, I'm in the middle of a freaking training and I go to do a corridor or something and it looks different. So I have to fumble around for a minute. But this might be the first time I actually like it. So it's quicker to build your corridor. So I'm just going to, hold up. I'm just going to go build one real quick. We're not going to go crazy detailed yet. But now if I go build my corridor, and I think this is also the latest 24 update. If I go build a corridor, that's my screen now. Okay. I've got my alignments and profiles here. I've got my feature lines down here. Corridor style, code set style, layer and target surface. I haven't done anything yet, or the target surface would show up. But in this case, I've got several roads in here and several feature lines that I want to create a corridor from. So I can go in here quickly and choose road 1, choose my finished ground, choose my assembly, just from a list. Go in here, road 2, I'm just building this quickly. Road 3. This is a live project, and yes, I actually named them road 1, 2, and 3. Probably not the best example. Let's just go turn all these on. So all my roads, corridor is good. Same with feature lines. So I'll do some more feature line here in a second. But
You're doing road 1 twice.
oh, sorry. Good catch. Just testing you. And then we just keep going, and then we mix and match. So if I wanted to add in some feature lines, I could just quickly go and grab them. That one wasn't named. If it was named, it would show up already. I have a habit of not naming my feature lines, but if I did name them, it would be in this list. And then this could be just my curve return or something like that. So how many clicks would that take me now? Like before, I probably would have clicked 50 different times going in there. Baseline, region, assembly, profile. Extremely annoying. I'm just going to, I don't care about my target surface. I don't care about that either. Okay. So real quick, without much effort, I've got my starting point for a corridor. I can go in there now and refine my regions. I can change things, just via grip, or go in there and change some of the stationing. Just makes it a little bit quicker to do. I'm not going to build this whole corridor in front of you. Okay, so that's definitely different. It's the same when you go into corridor properties. So same parameters, same surface build, same everything there. But the initial build of that corridor is slightly different. Targeting, if you haven't seen targeting for a while, targeting is a little bit different. So depending on your version, you've got your surface targets on one tab for your entire corridor, or per however you want to do it. I did the entire one. And then you have your offset targets on another tab. Let's go. Well, it's the same. I don't need to get into that yet. But then there's all of our targeting. So slightly different because you get, your sidewalk or whatever asphalt here. You get your alignments and alignments down here on the left, polylines, survey figures, whatever you're doing. On the right, the same stuff. So whether you're targeting elevation or you're targeting just width only, it's just a little bit different. So I don't remember when that changed. That could be not new to this one, but it could be new to you. And we can get more into that if you guys want to later. But the initial build, that's the point of what I was talking about. The initial build definitely looks different. To me, it speeds it up a little bit. I don't know if some of you guys, how you build your parking lots, but if I was doing a parking lot with a corridor, again, if I named things properly, which in this case I did, I would go in there and I would just pick curb and gutter 1, curb and gutter 2, and build that corridor. Do you guys use corridors for your curb and gutters? I'm going to build one then.
You can use a corridor without any alignments or profiles at all?
Without any alignments or profiles. I prefer this for curb returns, like say a subdivision intersection for a curb return. I prefer a feature line all day long because it's easier on some of these to edit my elevations, to edit my slopes, to edit anything. I just prefer to see it. Did I pick enough? I think I did. Guys, my naming sucks. Just kidding. That's a good naming convention right there. Type A, curb and gutter only. I don't know why I did that. So I'm going to build this real fast then, since not a lot of you do. But why I would do this, not only do I have more control, but how many of you do the stepped offset? A lot of you do a stepped offset. The point you do a stepped offset, it's not dynamic. It's not linked to each other. It's not tied to anything. If I change one elevation, I got to go change 5 stepped offsets. Going this route, let's just change my frequency to 1 foot. Going this route, and I'm going to do this and then build a surface real quick. I don't have to do any stepped offset for my flow line, for my face, for my back. I've got that already there. And so I just threw a corridor real quick. If you get this, I'm glad this one did it. This one went the wrong way. So instead of like having to reverse an alignment and do all that fun stuff, I just simply reverse my feature line. And now I swaps it out.
Is it putting anything between those or just the feature lines are getting assemblies? So it's doing?
Ask that again. What?
It's not creating any spaces or surfaces between those curb and gutters or anything?
Nope, not yet. But
It's just,
at this point, I've got my corridor. I can go into corridor properties or corridor surfaces and just tell it to build. I'm just going to build it out of all that. And let's do proposed 1 and 5. So at that point, I've got my surface. Oh, that style probably sucks. Let's look at my style. But you can see, obviously you can see my contours.
I noticed you didn't check the box that says add as a break line. Is there a reason you do that?
When you do top links, you really don't need to.
Oh.
Okay. When you do like a datum surface or a subgrade, you've got to select bottom links. But I've never had a problem doing anything and not including top links. I'm sure there's a real reason, but I've never run into any issues with it. Most of the time, if I wasn't talking and doing this, a lot of times I just click that top link. There, that's a little better. Yeah, so before, again, I would have a feature line stepped offset 1, 2, 3 plus times. Now I've got that corridor, good to go.
I've had trouble on the inside corner. Is your inside corners okay?
Oh, it looks pretty okay.
Yeah.
This one does not,
Yeah.
but that's probably starting and ending. No, it starts there. We
Are
could,
you starting at the lip? That's the lip you're using?
yeah, I always use the lip. Yeah, it's just easier to control. There's ways to clean that up. I could put a station or an assembly point right in there, drop another assembly. There's a couple ways. But I like that. Definitely corridor. That made that surface creation a lot easier. And I could mix in other feature lines. So if I wanted to do a low point, right now it's just tinning island to island. You know, if I had a traditional feature line in there that I'm going to go feature line, parking lot style, assign elevation from my parking lot. So if I wanted to force a low point, it's just the same old grading you do now. Let's make sure it's set to rebuild automatic. It is. I picked the wrong elevation. That's okay. Fine. Let's go -1 instead of -1,000. There. So you can still grade everything else the same as you do. So mix and match those. That's how I prefer to go about a corridor or a parking lot. Again, saves me having to do the stepped offset stuff. And you can also, this is going off topic a little bit, but if I had, you know, a normal shed curb going into a reverse curb, that's easy to manage through a corridor, way easier than it is with feature lines. Because then I just have a different assembly and I have a different region in there. It's just super easy to do. So. All right, corridors. I want to make sure I get through some of this stuff. Time's it. We got time. Corridor baselines and transitions. Has anyone used the new transition tool for corridors? I think it's pretty cool. Most people ignore, I'm going to open a file here. Most people ignore handicap ramps or drive accesses coming off of a road. They just ignore it, call it out as a drive access, and you figure it out in the field or something. I'm going to build this corridor just quick, just a small portion of it. Assembly. I don't really care about the surface, so I'm just going to do a small section so we can look at these driveways. You can do this in parking lots, so if you've got handicap ramps or something and you want to really model those, this will work out for you. Okay, so here, model just like a normal corridor so far. If I select my corridor, there is this edit corridor transition. I'm going to select that. And then here, I'm going to select a subassembly. It might be hard for you, but you can kind of see how it's highlighting as I'm going. It looks better up there. I'm going to change my curb and gutter. Okay, so you just hover over whatever assembly you want to change, in this case, curb and gutter. You can kind of see it in the top right on my cross section. You see where that's highlighting blue? So you know which one you're about to transition. So I'm going to transition in the curb. I probably should have wrote this down, but I think that's dimension D is going to be my height of curb. It says select a starting point of the transition. I'm just going to snap here to that part. It reads the default value, so I'm just looking at my command line. It reads the default value. I've got a 6-inch curb right there. I'm just going to accept that default. Specify the ending. I'm going to now here at the end of this wing. And then what's the parameter there? So whatever your detail looks like, I'm just going to put a number. So I'm going to say, what is half an inch? 0.04? Okay. What type of transition? There's a lot of options here for transition type. Typically just linear, just going to be a straight one. But if you wanted to taper it or curve it in, whatever you want to do there, I'm just going to do a linear. Specify the end station here. Let's go there. That is also going to be, so throughout that area, I want my back of curb, or to lose my back of curb, we'll say half
It's
an
asking
inch.
for inches though. This is the one of the few times where it asks you inches.
Yeah, I don't want to put 0.5 inch because I don't want to screw something up right in front of you.
Oh, okay.
But you might be able to put 0.5 inches.
I thought whatever you type in, it's going to default to inches in this situation. So,
Because it says 0.04 inches.
I still think it's reading it. Let's check on that though. Yeah. Because it's reading the assembly, but I don't think my input changes. I think it's still, my input's still a decimal. So, and then it's a linear. Next transition there, 6 inch. Okay. So, I didn't click enough. Insert. I need one above it. I screwed that up. So you get for asking me questions, Alex. I'm just going to key it in 2 + 80. Who cares? It's going to work. Okay. When you put that transition in, I just may lose a little bit here. It doesn't matter. When you put that transition in, it doesn't change anything until you go to apply. So now it's applied that transition from 6 inch to 0.4 and then 0.4. That may have worked. It took it. So if I look at this in a model, that drive access ramps down. So I lose my curb throughout that wing. It's going across the drive access and back up. Okay. Good question. So it did pull my sidewalk down, and it only did that because the out-of-the-box assemblies from Autodesk doesn't allow me to transition this. If I was doing this right, which we could. Does anyone use Subassembly Composer?
once.
Okay, Subassembly Composer, and if we have time later, if you guys want, we can, why do I keep doing that? Subassembly Composer. You can build your own, so if you really want to get that modeled in there exactly what you would want to see, because right now I can't transition that planner strip, right? Because in Autodesk world, why would you? So you can quickly build an assembly that has variable slopes for each of those. Because right now in Civil 3D, I can only do one slope, 2% slope across the planner strip, the sidewalk, the outside boulevard. This took about 2 minutes to build this to where I can put whatever slope I want here. That way I could transition through that planner strip up to where my normal sidewalk would be.
And I usually have to use front wall side targets.
Or you could do a target, yeah.
And if you, I guess if you have a target going through that area, it would have.
It would have kept that target. Yeah.
Well, one problem we always have, and we're talking about this on the way down, is when we went there, we were trying to apply this the first time, we didn't realize that on the city side, we end up designing a lot of TBC. All our profiles and alignments are all TBC based, because you might be doing a block of sidewalk that's missing and curb and gutter that's missing, but the road and everything else is there. So your TBC is kind of what matters elevation wise. When you do that and you drop from 6 inches to 1 inch through there, it just brings your thing up because you're designing your whole corridors tied to your profiles on your
Yeah.
TLC. So we're trying to find a way around that.
We could probably look at one
Okay.
if we want. I see what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
because
though.
everything's tied to that. So if you shorten your curb height, it just raises your curb
Yeah.
through that section. We're looking at some workarounds.
Yeah, I never designed off TBC.
Yeah, especially because I guess most of the time, if anyone's doing a full section, you're never bothering with it. If you're just doing a curb.
Seems like even when I do most of my times, I still run off the limb.
A newer thing in here is you can identify where the transitions are. So if you had a bunch in this corridor, which if I built this out, we would, you can right click and say show transitions. And it says there's a transition in this corridor at this point. Those would all be in this the corridor. Whether you want to show them or not, I don't know, but there's a toggle for you. You can copy, go ahead.
Question I had on this, problem I run into with the transitions, if I have a section, like a quarter section in the middle of that transition, it seems like it'll lock onto that and it'll change the slope. So it'll move up to that 6-inch sooner rather than, it's like if you wanted a 2-foot or like a 2-foot flare, you have a section right in the middle, it'll do it like in 1 foot. That makes sense.
Section like the 25-foot marker or something, or one of the standard lines.
Yeah, one
Yeah.
of those lines that crosses your chords.
It does. It shouldn't
Very
do that.
simple, yeah.
Like this one, for example, has got one in the middle, and it ignored that. But you're saying
But if
here,
it's like right in the middle of the flare, like
One-
if you
one
have
being in right here.
there, yeah. Then a lot of times it'll go up like sharper,
Okay.
like steeper.
it shouldn't. I haven't seen it do that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Is it a separate region for assembly?
No, I think it's
That's where
the
I
same.
usually see
Yeah, I was gonna say we'd have to see where that region point is because if we force something in there with a region, maybe that's causing it.
Okay.
It's usually online work.
I bet we could find out pretty easily what that
Okay.
problem is. We could look at it. The other thing, you can copy transitions. So I know that these access points are the same throughout. You can copy instead of having to rebuild them all the time. You can export them out. You can import them in. Going to cruise through these last couple things. We talked about that. We talked about the MMS thing, but I wanted to do it again because that is a pretty big deal. If you guys are setting up your custom coordinate systems, there's a little bit more. The UI is a little bit different. It makes it a little bit easier too. So I don't know if anyone here does that, but I know some of the customers have, especially out like in Vernal, have every single pad site's its own coordinate system. So they end up with like 8,000 coordinate systems. This probably would have saved them like a year of work. If you do use subassembly composer, in the past, if you brought them into Civil 3D, which I'll bring some in right here. If you did bring them in, you'd come through here, you'd say import subassemblies. That's also here now where you can come in and import into drawing. Let's do a different one because I think I must have one in there. Import subassemblies into the drawing. Just grab two. You can grab a whole folder or you can just select all your PKT files. And then they're all brought in pretty easily. Okay. So you can bring them to your palette. You can bring them just right there into Prospector either way. Before though, if I did bring that in and something changed, I would have to delete it, re-import it. Now it's treated like an XREF. Battery about dead. Now it's treated like an XREF where I can come into my custom subassemblies, create new, just says create new, and you add it to an assembly. Change subassembly PKT file. So it'll warn you if something changed. So very similar to an XREF. You just go in there, change the PKT file, double click it, and it says this one will be changed to this one. So you don't have to go and replace anything in your corridors, where in the past you did. You'd have to remove it and go and replace it, and it was extremely annoying. This just updates it. So a little bit more control when it comes to that stuff. think I'm trying to decide who will not be here in the last session of the day. Okay. I want to spend more time on this. I think that was the last thing. Okay. So I will do this in the last session of the day, but in Docs also has capabilities for point clouds, which I think is long overdue. The ability to extract features, draw features. Let's go to road rehab. I'll just do a simple one for now, but later on I'll expand on this. Two things. If you just want to have a viewer for somebody who doesn't have any Autodesk software or point cloud viewer, you can just have them view this file. You just share a viewer with them. But in this one, let's find a better spot. I just want to, let's say we want to draw this road. Civil 3D, you can do it. It's not a good way of doing it, but you could do it. Let's just use this spot for now. But there's a feature extraction tool now. There's point feature extraction, so fire hydrants, light poles, that type of stuff. There's linear, and there's 3D. I'm going to do this one later because I think this is pretty cool. And there's also freeform. So if you just want to go draw your brake lines, you can just walk down the road, draw your brake lines. If you've ever used Virtual Surveyor, Topodot, Cyclone, not as good as Cyclone. Probably not as good as Virtual Surveyor, if I'm being honest, but pretty cool. But you can do a feature extraction. Let's look down the road. We can code this. These are just points within this point cloud. I'm just going to move this around a little bit. Okay, so let's say I want to redraw this Jersey barrier, whatever this thing is. Let's just add a few points in there. Maybe this is even a paint line or a center line, I don't know. But you can set up your cross section. These come in, there's some custom codes you can do. So I could call this TBC, flow line, center line, paint line, whatever. I give it my template and I say start auto extraction. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit while it's starting to extract. There's some more settings in there. And I'll go over this a little bit more later, but I just wanted to show that real quick for those that won't be there. This goes in and creates these break lines that you can just bring right into Civil 3D. So if you've ever built a surface, let's ignore that warning, out of drone data, sometimes that surface gets large, sometimes it's a little bit ugly. These are set. You give it some confidence values and stuff. But if you ever have to draw anything, sometimes, again, that's more of a manual process. This actually does a good job, whether it's done by LiDAR, which this one is, or drone data, which is sometimes a little degraded. It does a good job of extracting that. So you can extract pretty much any hard surface feature, and then just build your surface from that. So just wanted to show that real quick. This came out last year, but these enhanced options came out recently. So pretty cool, I thought. And then that just all exports out to a DXF or an XML or a CSV if they're points, and you bring that into Civil. Pretty straightforward. So that's some of the new and enhanced stuff. Some of that maybe not new to 2025, but enhanced in 2025. Some of that just outside of Civil 3D that I think are useful tools. And as far as what's new, that's pretty much it. There might be a couple other hidden things in there that I haven't seen, but those are the good stuff anyway. Any questions before we break for the next session? Okay, if you want to explore any of those further, we can always look at those. Got 10 minutes. 10 minutes, and that next session will start. So give me a second to regroup.
I have another question. I noticed you added on feature lines for those ADA corners in the corridor.
Yeah,
Is there a reason you will add that in the corridor versus the surface, like as a break line?
yes, let me go to that. I think it was this one. You're talking,
Yeah, those,
Like-
yeah.
you're talking this?
Mhm.
Well, if I just add that one, I don't need to add that one, right? Because my corridor is built out of it.
Oh, I thought, so when you built the corridor, you used the feature lines, right?
Right.
As part of the build,
As the baseline, yeah.
as the baseline?
Yeah, so you don't have to add the feature line to the corridor,
Okay,
to the surface or anything like that. It's
Gotcha.
already in there because it's being used as a baseline to control that.
okay.
Yeah. You could double dip. It's not going to change anything, but you
Okay.
don't have to add that to your surface at all.
I guess is there a reason you add it as a baseline instead of the surface?
That baseline controls in this case, my flow line, my top of curb, my back of curb, and my back of walk.
Okay.
So instead of just having that one feature line or multiple stepped offsets, it's got this entire assembly.
Oh, I see.
And if I build that out further, I would extend my asphalt to target these alignments and profiles.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
We can build that. I can build it this afternoon. So I'm just kind of show you the whole thing. But I go from one line to having everything that I need.
So usually design off the lip.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Only because targeting is easier, controlling
Yeah.
it's easier.
Yeah.
So pretty much everything I do is based off lip.
Huh. Cool.
If you use a feature line, you can get your 2% in the
Yeah.
ADA ramp if you have steep roads.
Yeah, and then from there, it's super easy. If I needed to design this feature line, instead of having an alignment or a profile, I could just insert an elevation point in here, maybe another one here, and then I can grade that feature line. Maybe I want 2% or -2 or something, whatever. So then that controls the entire ramp. So things are just, to me, a lot easier to control from one line versus
Yeah.
several.
Cool. Okay. And that whole like neighborhood basically is like one corridor that you made all
Yep.
that out of.
One corridor,
So you usually try to keep it consolidated.
I would, because then you have one surface. You don't have to do pasting a bunch of surfaces together to make
Yeah.
one. They tie together. I've done some
Wasn't that
pretty,
a couple of years ago where they started doing combined quarters like that? Or is that
I think it's been since day one. I think most people just choose not to.
just like-
Yeah. I find it easier to manage all the data if it's in one. I've done some pretty big projects and one corridor still works
Yeah.
out pretty well.
It seems like this newer one doing multiple baselines in that one corridor is a lot faster, right? Than that.
A lot faster.